Welcome to the Alberta Craft Beer Guidecast, aka the AbBeerGuide podcast. My name is Andrew, and I am one of the people behind the Alberta Craft Beer Guide. And our goal is simple. We just want to grow the craft beer community. We do this by educating the interested and entertaining the entrenched. My guest today is someone who's pretty awesome. His name is Kaiden. He is one of he's got a neat title. He's part of the Medicine Hat Brewing Company. Specifically, he's the general manager of manufacturing and distribution, which
pretty big title.
Yeah, big title. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited for this.
Yeah, it should be fun. So as you know, I dive right into things. What makes Medicine Hat Brewing Company, or as they call it in the hat, BrewCo, what makes the BrewCo unique? Good
question. Diving right in. I would say the biggest thing that makes us unique would be our story and our history. Having a Medicine Hat Brewing Company, we got a name from the first Medicine Hat Brewing Company in 1912. So we took a 100-year-old name, kind of dusted it off, rebranded it a little bit, found the family who had the rights to the name, asked them for it, and they gave it to us. So it was no legal contract, but we still wanted to make sure it was all good to them. We actually gave them the first six-pack we ever made, so they're pretty happy about that.
That's amazing. That's
so we
really
kind of
cool.
just take our 100-year-old traditions and kind of bring them to today's light. We also spread history through our beer. Each one of our beers, we try to have like one of the names deal with history in 1912 when the brewery first opened, and kind of bring it to light today. So with every beer, we're kind of shedding a little history lesson through Alberta and beyond, I guess.
Yeah, which is really neat. Now, speaking of beer, I got to ask what you're drinking, because I got to open my beer and I'll tell you what I'm drinking.
For sure. Right now, I'm drinking our Hoppy Hatter Hazy Pale Ale.
Ooh, yes, that's one of your newer beers, right?
It is, yeah. So we're gonna keep it around for a while. It was kind of like we were debating a seasonal big hop hazy trend right now, so we figured we'd jump on board, and it turned out really good. It's named after our restaurant. I used to be a food truck, so kind of started with my brother as a food truck, and then he turned into the full restaurant here, and now we named a beer after it.
That's really cool. We'll definitely dive deeper into that. And I mean, it's crazy. The taste right now, though, is hazy. People want fruity and tropical and juicy in their IPAs and not as much bitterness. So It's a smart move. It's brilliant. No wonder. I'm sure the sales of it dictated the fact that you're going to keep it around,
right? A little bit, yeah.
So I'm going a little opposite spectrum. I had to go find this because I hadn't had it yet.
The Baltic Porter.
Yeah. So Collab, this is your year 4. So congrats. 4 years producing beer now, right?
Thank you very much. It was a little bit different of a year 4 than we're used to, but it is what it is.
It's better than not having a year 4. It's better not. You know
True.
I mean? So we'll take it. And this is a collaboration with Black Bridge. What's your connection? Because they're in Swift in Saskatchewan, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So our brewmaster Mitch Dalrymple, he came from Regina. So he got Saskatchewan roots. A lot of Saskatchewan brewer friends. He's been friends with Clayton for quite a few years now. We kind of debated going back and forth doing a collab over the last 4 years. And then it kind of just came to tuition. Mitch wanted to do a Baltic Porter, and so did he. So he came over here. It was great working with them. Awesome company. They make great beer. So, and this Baltic Porter turned out fantastic, we thought. So Mitch actually went to Swift Current and brewed a Baltic Porter at their place too. There's actually 2 versions of that beer.
Oh, cool. So I imagine you have to go to Saskatchewan to get that version, though?
Yeah, that one. We sent a few flats to Saskatoon and Regina, but that one's only in Saskatchewan. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's in a tall 473, and it's 8.3%. So it's a full percent less and a little bit lighter. So it's a definitely a nice contrast putting them side by side.
So you're saying this one's 9%? Oh yeah, 9.3. There we go. Yeah. All right, here we are.
Yeah.
Short can.
Starting your Friday afternoon off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going anywhere for a while, so I'll be okay. This should be good. Let's talk about, because you mentioned some of your core beer, some of your history in the beer. Some of your favorites right now out of your core brand.
Out of our core brand?
Yeah.
Well, since last August, we came out with a whole bunch of beers. We came out with like 6 different beers. We had our Blood Orange Sour, our Munich Dunkel, and we did a cold brew Dunkel collab with a local roastery in town. We did our Hellman's Basement, a collab with Hell's Basement. We did our Coconut Porter and our Baltic Porter, and then our Cranberry Sour. So all those I'm pretty pumped with most of those. I was really happy with the cold brew, how it turned out. But for our core lineup right now, our Twin City, I'd say, I'm pretty happy with that. Just a nice, crisp, clean lager. I think it's kind of harder beer to do. You can't really hide any flaws in it. It won silver for best lager in Canada. So we're pretty riding that high still on that. We're going to try to kind of bump that one. It's kind of our main focus for next year or this year, I guess.
Absolutely. And then there's a neat story. Was it Sin Bin is your red ale?
Yep.
I think that's actually the first beer I ever had from you guys. It was on tap at Beer Revolution back in the day.
Yeah, love beer. Yeah,
Like,
been a
big
supporter.
on tap. And what's the story? Because Sin Bin is like the Wild West kind of story, or what's the story behind that?
Well, it's definitely before my time. So there's a bar in Medicine Hat called the Assiniboia. Okay. I think it started in 1908. It's still around today, but it's a pretty old building. Needs definitely some renovations. But it used to be a place. We have a military base called Suffield really close to us. Yep. All the soldiers would come in and everyone would go to the Assiniboia. And I guess like over England, there's all these stories about the sin bin and stuff. So it's kind of just been a staple of Medicine Hat downtown. Everyone's going down to the sin bin. So that's kind of what I was driving by it one day. It was like, wow, that'd be a hell of a name for a beer. It kind of went from there.
Yeah, it works great.
Yeah.
Speaking of Canadian Brewing Awards, you also won a gold for your brick and mortar porter.
Yes.
Which I'm a big fan of. Brick and mortar, again, I guess the lesson behind that one is just that's what everything was built out of at the time, right?
Pretty much. Medicine Hat's one of our first biggest exports was like clay and bricks. We still have, like, if you're ever down here, and I'll take you on a tour of Madelta. It's like the old clay factory. It's still around today. It's really neat down there. So bricking was like a huge industry in Medicine Hat. So it's kind of like how probably our first biggest boom was in the clay and brick industry. So that's kind of where that goes back. It's again to like our theme is kind of giving hardworking hands beer. So it fits right perfectly with our theme in that. I'm really happy it won a gold. We were definitely not expecting it, but we'll take it.
You'll take it, absolutely. That's not where it stops. You won a gold for your oatmeal stout, the Gentleman Stout.
Yep, the Stout Gentleman.
Oh, is that? So is that named after someone in particular, or?
Yeah, it's this guy named Mayor McGrath. He was the mayor around like 1912 when Medicine Hat really started booming, taking off. We had quite the industrial boom here, hence another beer boomtown. but the stout. We were really shocked again that we won gold. We won a few awards of that, so that's definitely it's probably our fastest growing brand right now. Will be our stout. Definitely for all year, it's been growing ever since the awards, so that's pretty good to see.
Yeah, I remember drinking the beer early on, and I was impressed. And you won a bunch of Alberta Beer Awards for the Gentleman Stout as well.
Yeah, I think we won 2 silvers over the last couple of years.
Damn, that's great.
Yeah.
Silver in North American style lager with Twin City Lager, which you're hyping up, which is cool for Canadian Beer Awards. And then a silver for fruited wheat beers, which was for your creamsicle ale.
Yeah. Again, we were also shocked. I was actually pretty happy winning an award of that one. There's a lot of hype around that beer. It is a very fruited beer. Definitely tastes like a creamsicle. I guess some of the beer nerds might not particularly like it, but the masses do right now. So that's also important. Medicine Hat really likes that beer. So I was happy to get some recognition behind it, that it's not just like a local trend kind of thing, that it's got some metal behind it, which is nice.
Now here's the really neat thing. Because I did a podcast with Common Crown not too long ago. They were awarded.
Big congrats to them too.
Canada, which is huge. Now, I like seeing the numbers behind things just to see what's like, they award the top 3 breweries. And for Canadian Brewing Awards, you have to pick, correct me if I'm wrong, you can only submit up to 10 beer, I believe, and only 5 of those beer or 4 of those beer were allowed to, like, if you selected those, and they won a medals, that's how you won Brewery of the Year, essentially.
Yep, that's correct. So I think it was 10 beers, and then you got to pick 4 of them that were to go towards Brewery of the Year.
Yeah, so they happened to pick 3 of their beer that all won 3 gold medals. So they run Brewery of the Year with 15 points, essentially, 3 gold medals. Now, when you take all their points, because they won 3 golds overall, which is great. You guys won 3 golds and what did I say, silver or bronze?
Yeah, we won 2 golds and 2 silvers.
Sorry, that's right. Yes, 2 golds, 2 silvers. So you actually had 16 points, which means you actually had more points than the Brewery of the Year with 15 points, which is Common Crown, which is just it's nothing to take away from Common Crown.
No, not at all.
Kudos to you guys, which is really, really, really
well, thank you.
Fantastic. It's amazing. it's cool to see those kinds of things. Yeah, it's cool. And then like, a lot of breweries, they're focused on, hey, what's our 2 core, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 core beer, but you guys consistently have 10 core beer.
We kind of narrowed it down. We are more or less even more.
Okay.
So we kind of run with, we're trying to do with 5 core beer now, I guess 4. Depends what you classify, I guess. So we have our patio series, which is kind of always growing. So we're going to hit that hard this summer with our creamsicle, blueberry, vanilla, cherry, and blood orange, all going to be in a 12 pack. So we're really looking forward to that one. I think it's really going to sell well. But our core lineup right now is the blood orange, Gentleman Stout, Industrial IPA, Boomtown Lager, the Cherry, and Twin City. So about 6.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and the Boomtown, I guess. So it keeps growing.
Which is great. And then so patio series is obviously pretty self-explanatory. They're, leaning fruited and just something you can drink all damn day. Like the blood orange was Burnside, right? That's the name of that one?
Yeah, Burnside blood orange, yeah.
Which I remember when I first had that, I think I was actually at your brewery and I had it and I was like, oh man, this is going to blow up. This is going to be good.
Yeah, it was actually supposed to be a one and none.
Well, sometimes that's the other thing I love is that, the breweries that are constantly putting out other stuff, you guys have a small batch tap in your brewery itself, things that aren't even packaged for the most part. Do you want to touch on that too?
Yeah, so that's actually growing a lot more too. So we just got a 4-barrel brew system. So we're going to be making a lot more small batches. And we're letting our assistant brewers kind of shine, making their own recipes with their guidance of Mitch. So we're going to be putting them in bombers too, selling them out of the tap room. So we're having like a small batch series, so which is going to be really good. Kind of gives those guys some more confidence and to do their own thing. But we also came out with a new series last year called Taproom Classics. And that's kind of beers that were casks or small batches that turn into a bigger batch. So our intentions are these small batch series are going to turn into our Taproom Classics, and then kind of if they keep selling, go bigger and bigger kind of thing. Our first Taproom Classic was our Black Forest Porter, which we started doing first in 2016 when we opened. It was half our brick and mortar porter, half our cherry in the tap room. And we've been selling it on our menu since. And then we were like, well, why don't we put this in a can? And it turned out pretty good. I think we'll do it again. We'll definitely tweak it a bit. But first go around, it turned out great. So
yeah, it was tasty. I was fortunate to get one I was doing those cilantro and chive.
Nice.
Advent calendar videos. And there's one of those.
Yeah. I loved those, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just one of those things where you have a conversation and it just worked out. But usually I'm kind of have an aversion to things that may be related to cake or pastry and beers, knowing how much I love the porter too. So I'm like, did they ruin it? And then when I drank it, I was like, oh, it's like drinking a Black Forest cake, but without all that sweetness. It was tasty. Yes. You got flavors of both the roasty and chocolate and that cherry. And it was a good beer.
I'm glad you said that. When we do in the tap room, it's like half and half, which I always find was kind of too watery for a porter. I think if we were outside of the tap room, if people on the shelf are going to buy a porter, they definitely want a porter. They don't want anything weaker than that. So I'm glad we kind of changed it up. We did about 75-25 with some more cherry. So I think it worked out quite nice. It's still porter, which was our goal. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And shout out Cilantro and Chive for putting us in that box. That was sweet.
Yeah, they got a new spot in Red Deer, so there's another reason for you. You don't have to go all the way to Lacombe now. You can make it in Red Deer.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say about, with your rotating tap series and letting your brewers experiment, like I think that's the strongest thing people can do for R&D, because you're empowering your employees to like step their game up and learn more things, and they might bring styles that, your main brewer might not even think about. But ultimately, that's where you find your next home run, your next hit. You have no idea. Like the Burnside, you're like, oh, this will just be, let's play with this. It's a cool beer. And then that's it. And then the people ultimately decide, whoa, we want more of that. Like, give it to us, right? So it's cool to see the stories of like brewers, like Taylor at Sea Change. He was allowed to play with the system when he was a brewer at Yellowhead. And he was developing a whole bunch of recipes and tweaking things and playing and perfecting at Yellowhead. And then eventually, he left and went to Sea Change, and he honed his skills on that like little system after hours, right?
That's cool.
People at Alley Cat the same way, who would, they're allowed to play and produce things. And then when they went to start their own brewery, now they have this whole Rolodex of new recipes, or it just leads to new recipes within, the brand itself. So I'm a big proponent of that. I think everyone should have some sort of program to let your brewers play.
Yeah, no, it's really good to hear you say that too, because you sometimes you got to swing and miss too. Like guys are taking risks and stuff, and when it's a smaller system, you got to take those risks, and it's cool to see what people can really come up with if you give them the freedom to do it.
Yeah, the sky is the limit.
It really is.
Another prediction I've been leaning on and preaching, we'll see if I'm right or not, but I really think, because a lot of Alberta breweries, especially one's more established like yourself, been around 4 years. We got people like Blind Man, Apex, 5 years, right? And a bunch in the 2 and 3 year marks. Is that not only they're making good beer, now they're starting to explore and experiment. And as much as there's all the fruited things, the sour things, all the hazy things, I think there's also a pendulum switching to, you've seen the rise of lagers. You guys have had your lagers for quite some time, but more and more breweries are producing more classic, clean lagers. I think the next big thing is more classic German styles. And you guys had a Brewmaster series.
Yep.
So Mitch has brewed some fantastic beers over the years, of course. But like half of them, like your Dunkel, people are starting to like, oh, I drink Dunkels now. And, like dark wheats and these dark lagers. And
it's crazy to see like on Untapped, which is not the best rated system to go to, but it is a good point of reference in a way.
Reference.
Seeing all the people rating their Dunkel being like, oh, this is amazing. I never thought I would like this kind of thing. Like dark lager, it's an easier drinking beer. Just color kind of intimidates people. So kind of breaking past that threshold for people it's nice.
Absolutely. So and it's cool to see. So let's talk about Warren. Let's talk about Mitch. Okay. Did I say Warren earlier too? I meant Mitch.
It's all good.
So Warren's your dad. We'll talk about him too. He's pretty great. But let's talk about Mitch. He's got a pretty cool story.
Yeah, he's quite the character. He's a awesome dude. He's basically my brother now. But he brewed. I think he's on his 20th year brewing. So we were more than fortunate. I can't really say in words how lucky we were to get Mitch. Before we started the brewery, we did a bunch of research, put an ad out actually on Kijiji of all places to looking for a brewer to see like how hard it would be to find one, the preliminary research. And he applied right away. So my dad went up to Regina, met him at Bushwakkers. They had supper, had like probably 20 beers. And then the rest is history. Mitch signed on right away. He moved to the Hat, bought a house here right away. So he was fully committed. And the rest is history. He took a chance on us, which was, can't thank him enough because we were new to the brewing industry and stuff. So it was pretty big for him to leave Bushwakkers really established. He's been brewing there for about 16 years. So we were pretty fortunate to have him make the switch.
Yeah. And his story is pretty unique. Even before Bushwakker, like, didn't really get into beer. And then a friend, he's like, try this. And it was just some homebrew and that like threw him into craft beer.
Yeah, it was like, I think pretty sure it was Dave Hollowatty's dad who introduced him to beer. And Dave Hollowatty used to be the head brewer at Rebellion in Regina.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and Dave's an awesome dude. He came down here. We did a hop kettle sour with him, which was great. He got introduced from home brewing, and then he kind of went from there. Started as assistant brewer at Bushwakker, and then moved to head brewer. And yeah, it's been a good story for him.
Yeah, that's really neat. And still Bushwakker, for I guess Alberta listeners, they're the longest operational brewery in Saskatchewan.
Yep.
And I've had their beer. I've been there, I think 2, maybe 3 times, but I think my first time was my most memorable because it was like a hot, just raging hot summer in Regina. And I had visited a brewery or 2 before. And then I think I checked into the hotel, left my car, and then I got to like that little strip where Rebellion is and Bushwacker's down the street. And I just happened to be there on a Friday and they were doing a cask night.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
And I was like, of course I'll have the cask, right? That's always my intuition, is always get the cask. And oh my God, it was so amazing. And their food was good. It was just retro lounge, right? Like wheelie chairs and like carpet and straight out of the 90s. But it was just like, there was an ambiance to it. There was something special.
Well, that's great. You got to try one of his casks out. Like he always hosted the Real Ales Fest in Regina. So it has all the home brewers and stuff, and all the brewers bring their casks. I think there was like around 40 casks a time there.
Wow.
So I've never been to one myself, but we've entered some cask into it and stuff, and Mitch always kills it with the casks. So
yeah, I haven't heard. Maybe I don't know if you told me or someone else told me that he would continue to enter casks in that competition even after he left Bushwackers, and he would still win awards. Like he would still win.
yeah, we won first, and we're the only Alberta brewery there. I don't think too many of the homebrewers are too happy about that, but
it's by Saskatchewanian. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm from Kindersley. I still don't know what Saskies I call us, but
Saskies. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kindersley doesn't have a brewery yet, do they? No, they don't.
They do not. Maybe we can make a Kindersley BrewCo.
Yeah, that would fly. I mean, Saskatchewan's on the rise.
It is. Yeah, for anyone who hasn't been to Regina, it's like one of the biggest growing craft beer scenes ever. Like there's so many craft breweries there. It's a great local scene there.
And the breweries are close together too, which is really nice.
Yeah,
you can get a hotel. Actually, the last time I was there too, I got a hotel with a friend. This was, I guess, summer of 2019. Yeah, not 2020, 2019. And yeah, we could walk to Rebellion. What's the new one just north of Rebellion? Warehouse?
I think so. Yeah.
And then yeah, Bushwacker's down the way. But you can go visit District and Pile of Bones and Multinational. Like everything's pretty tight, and it's cool. It's very cool. I recommend it, especially if we're not allowed to travel internationally for a while. And, stay in Alberta or go to Saskatchewan if it makes sense, and it's allowed to, right?
That might be the case for a little bit yet. So
yeah. So let's talk about the fam, because MH BrewCo. I always call it that because that's just how I interact on Instagram.
Oh, for sure.
In the hat, everyone calls it BrewCo. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the BrewCo, it truly is, like a lot of people say, well, we're a family business, but you guys are a proper family business. So
we are.
Your dad was your dad the reason why? Was he the spark that got this thing going?
Yeah, it was a combination. It was always kind of like a pipe dream that it's always one of those things. Oh, it'd be cool to do this, cool to do that. But yeah, we've kind of talked about it for about 5 years, I'd say. And then he had some more free time in his hand. He sold his company. So instead of retiring, he's like, well, why don't we do this? And we're like, yeah, I don't think we really knew what we were getting ourselves into, but it's been a good passion project. It's been a blast. It's really great working with family. So
yeah, I mean, I still remember the conversation I had with Warren, with your dad, when I was doing my research for my Sooneries. And it actually, now that I think about it, it was probably for the first guidebook. Yeah, you guys were in the first guidebook as a Soonery. We'll go retro, redo these submissions from September of 2016. Medicine Hat Brewing Company, the second to arrive in the city of 63,000. They plan to open in October 2016. Now you did open in 2017 though, didn't you?
Nope, December 10th, 2016. So.
Well, you just okay.
Yeah.
The brewery will feature a tap room in its 18,000 square foot location in Briar Park. That seems big.
It is big. It's a pretty big building. But
I know I've been there. I just didn't think it was 18,000 square feet. Holy!
It's kind of like a Harry Potter building. When you look up from the outside, you're like, oh, that's not that big, and then you're in it, like, wow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good point. So I remember the conversation with him, and he said, yeah, that he was in oil and gas for a long time, and owning and running different businesses, and he just wanted to get into beer, and I liked right away just connecting with him. Like, obviously, he's just like down to earth. He's just very personable, very, very humble. But I could tell that he knew business, and right away, I'm like, these guys are going to do well. Just like, and you guys like didn't you sell some like family assets and things to help invest in things like that too? Or
yeah, basically like he had a couple businesses with a business partner, and then they kind of got out of the oil field. It's right when oil was kind of crashing again in 2016. So he didn't really want to be part of that life anymore, waking up every day, checking the markets. It's a lot more stressful than making beer.
True.
Beer does have its added stress to it, but it's more of a fun stress. So he was pretty happy to get out of that. And then, it was always a passion project kind of thing. We always thought about it. But then once we really started doing research, then we really got more serious and stuff. And then we just started looking at buildings. It was like, okay, we're doing this. And then, now we're here.
Now you're here. And then, your mom is involved too. She's on like the accounting and kind of policies side of things, right?
Yeah, like basically Warren and Kathy now don't really have a role, an official role anymore. They haven't for the past about 2 years. They definitely help out when needed. My mom likes to do some more like the merchandise stuff, kind of sourcing out best prices for shirts and hats and stuff like that. But she's working on her pottery at home too a lot, especially with COVID. They definitely haven't been around much, so
Sure. Yep.
which is understandable.
Yep.
So they definitely help out and give advice whenever needed. But yeah, right now they've definitely just let me and my brother take over and we'll let it fly. So
That's
been
cool. And a nice segue. I appreciate you brought in Brennan in the conversation, your brother. So he had a food truck for a number of years, right?
Yep, the Hoppy Hatter food truck.
Hoppy Hatter, and he's a Red Seal chef. When I was first at Medicine Hat, actually, I think the first time I visited was to actually do the photo shoot for this.
I think so. It was a great picture, by the way, on the cover there.
Thanks, I took it. And I remember just being impressed, right? Just being blown away. And then, we were getting certain photos, like staff, team, the brewery, the building. And then you didn't open with a restaurant, but you opened it later on after establishing yourself with beer, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2018, January or something, when we opened that kitchen up.
Yeah, so I think we were there that summer.
Yeah.
Because this was our autumn 2018. And I remember when we visited Medicine Hat, it was like June or July. I think it was July.
Yeah.
It was peak summer. I think it was like 43 degrees. And we had these 2 little puppies with us because we were doing this big road trip. And you guys were fortunate. You took in the little pups so they could go upstairs, and staff played with them while we were downstairs taking photos and everything. But we were talking about food, and I was like, oh yeah, if there's a dish ready, we'll just take a picture of it before it gets sent out. And they're like, oh, we'll just whip. I think Brennan's like, oh, whip something up for you. And it ended up making in the book, but it was a steak that he's holding in this photo.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Oh my God, that's like one of the best pieces of meat I've had. It was just incredible. So like he has free reign essentially. He puts on what's seasonal, or like what's his focus for food in your tap room?
Yeah, so he lived in Calgary actually when we first opened. And we always kind of debated the idea of doing the restaurant, but the building we got was an old safety warehouse. So definitely no kitchen in this. So once we got off the ground running, we were a couple of years into the brewery. Thought we could definitely make a serious go at this. So we took out some offices, built a full kitchen. In the meantime, building the kitchen, he had the food truck going. So he'd go around to daily festivals and stuff and be in front of the brewery. And it worked out great. And it was kind of a good segue into having a full restaurant there. So our goal at the restaurant's kind of same as the brewery, just kind of keep it as local as possible. So you get local meats from all the local meat producers around here. We're pretty fortunate in Medicine Hat to have a ton of meat shops and stuff. So he definitely has free range on the menu. He changes it up almost weekly. So unfortunately, we can't have people in right now, but I know we'll have some soon. So we'll have to, once that's good, we'll be rocking and rolling again.
Yeah. And then I know the menu's always changing, but is there a few things like someone makes a trip, when you're open up and you can dine in again? What things should they look for? What things are you known for? What are some of your favorites?
Our burger's really good. I like our burger a lot because all our mash from brewing, we give it to a local farmer at Tower View Ranches, and then we buy all the beef off him, and that's what we use for our burgers and stuff.
So you drink the beer, and then you eat the beef that also has the spent grain in it too.
yeah. Each beer tastes different. Yeah. But yeah, the burger's really good. Pretzels, the steak's really good. Fish and chips Friday is really good. But I always try to get the special. He usually switches it up all the time, so it's always new and fresh. But definitely recommend stopping by if you can.
Yeah, I can't wait to visit again. And also the ambiance is for those who haven't seen the tap room, the vibe is very much of the 1912 origin of the name, right? You got you used to have the big pool table. You've got like the wainscoting, the big dark, the dark bar. Like it's the pressed tin ceiling or the pressed tin ceilings. Like there's an aesthetic, right?
It's funny what you think you need when you open to what you actually do need. Like when we first opened, we had that massive snicker table in there. Yeah. It was huge. It took up all the seating, took that out. And then we have all the red brick on the wall, which we laid ourselves. We've never laid brick before, so that's why we think it looks kind of bad, but we call it the rustic look.
Yeah, artisanal.
Yeah. We also built a big patio on too. So we definitely increased our capacity by tenfold when we first opened. So
yeah, no, it's incredible. There's you know, every brewery is different on what they want to do, whether it's production wise, whether it's taproom focus, whether it's food, whatever it is. But there's a certain feeling when you sit there. Like I just like sitting at the big bar. It's like cozy and you know it's there's something about all the taps and everything. Having a pint, having a bite. It's just there's definitely an ambiance.
Good you brought that up. We like one of our main goals at Medicine Hat Brewing Company is to educate people. Medicine Hat's definitely not the biggest craft beer crowd. I'd say it's a big beer crowd. Like a lot of people drink beer down here, but not necessarily craft beer, because I don't think people definitely know more about it now than they did say 4 years ago when us and Hell's and Trap been open. So we want people come in. I don't want them to. They never think like, oh, there's nothing here to drink. So we kind of have a beer for everybody. Mm-hmm. We have people that only drink like Lucky or Old Milwaukee. They started with our Twin City, and now they're up to like drinking our stouts or Russian Imperials, and it's good to see that the progress of people. Like once they trust craft beer and stuff, it's endless what the options they can do. Yeah, and find the styles that suit them, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I agree. That's phenomenal. Damn, I want to go now. I got a business. And that's the other challenge with, you know, not traveling as much as normally. At least once a year, I make my way to all the breweries. I think in 2019, I had a pint at 105 breweries across Alberta.
No way. That you should get a badge for that.
I mean, we had a little race, and I was supposed to win a belt or a trophy or some shit, but it's fine. I'll take the pride of it. But
yeah.
In 2020, I think my number was like 40.
Oh wow!
So I'm like, you know, I didn't get anywhere south last year, so I'm itching for it when things are back right again.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Like being from the south here, we're not. I wouldn't say alienated from the rest of Alberta, but just like talking to other brewers and stuff, it's been kind of far in between with no beer fests or beer events. Definitely travel between cities. I used to go to Edmonton and Calgary a lot. Yeah. Always stop in and check out other breweries, and yeah, it's far in between now. But I'm really looking forward to when we can do that again. I'm sure everyone will be having full pint glasses ready for us. So
absolutely, and then for those who haven't been to Southern Alberta, there's a spread. Like there's a lot of breweries to visit. Obviously, go to Medicine Hat. That's why we're here. But like, you know, you've got your neighbors, right? Hell's and Travois, which are all both doing their own thing, which is pretty great. You've got a couple in Lethbridge.
Yeah, we got like Fort McLeod, Brooks, both Piston Broke there, Drumheller, Origin, all the guys south of Calgary.
It's a nice loop. Like if you're coming from Calgary, you can go southeast. You can hit 2 in Brooks. You hit 3 in Medicine Hat. Then you go west. There's 2 in Lethbridge. If you really want to keep going west, you can hit Old Man River and the Pass. And then when you come back north, you can hit Stronghold and then High River and like Hard Knocks and then go back into Calgary. Like there's this perfect loop. If you stay a day or two and like, even if you did a night in Medicine Hat, a night in Lethbridge, and then went back up, like it's for
sure.
tourism, it's cool. It's really neat to see.
Yeah, like Highway 3, there's a couple bars in Lethbridge. They have like the Highway 3 special. So it's all the breweries along Highway 3, like us, Hell's, Travois, Stronghold, Old Man, all the Lethbridge breweries. So cool. Actually, like when you look at the map, there's quite a few more popping up in the south, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it's the reason why when we split our book, like we put Edmonton Central and North in one book, and then it was just Calgary area South, because there's so many more breweries in Calgary and Southern Alberta than there are in Northern Alberta and Edmonton.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So try to balance it a little bit, but it's neat.
Calgary definitely needs its own section.
Yes. Well, I mean, eventually they could have their own book. Just Calgary, right?
Yeah, they really could.
Yeah. So here's my second question for you. Kaiden, how did you get into beer? I know people drink, you know, this and that wherever and don't think much of it, but was there a certain beer or certain moments or a certain time period where you started drinking like good beer and local beer and tasty beer?
I would say yes. I would say my first introduction to craft beer, I wouldn't say necessarily even drinking it, but just hearing more about it. My brother's 4 years older than me, and he was always, he's like 18, 19, bringing beers back to the parents' house. They're always these weird beers I've never heard of and stuff. And I was like 15 to 16 at the time drinking Lucky Strongs and all the Big Bears and whatever I could find. Yeah, so just seeing that kind of intrigued me a bit. And then once I turned 19, me and my brother took a trip to Europe together. We were in Germany, did this big brewery tour, like Hofbrauhaus, Augustina, all those beers, and just kind of seeing like this was really crazy what beer actually is. It's not just like these macro breweries and seeing what all these smaller guys can do.
Mhm.
So that kind of intrigued my interest into it. And then we started deep diving more. The more I traveled, like our family would travel quite a bit, still do when post and pre-COVID, I guess.
Yep.
And we'd always go to the local brewery. The smaller, the better kind of thing. That's kind of the best parts about traveling, is going to see local food and drinks kind of thing.
Yep.
So that really sparked our interest. And I used to live in Vancouver a bit. A lot of friends in Victoria. So travel out there a lot. And yeah, it's just brewery city out there. I love it in Victoria. Hoyne Brewing was probably one of the biggest ones, the biggest influence. Dark Matter.
Dark Matter, yeah, I knew it.
Yeah. And like when we first were doing research going out there, those guys showed us around. They were just such cool dudes. It was great to see. I went back out 2 years later, and the same guys remembered us, showed us around again, gave us a bunch of beer. So seeing how nice they were and like collaborate, they were just ready to collaborate and just show us around and stuff. Just really opened my eyes on how great this industry can be and stuff, and really drove the passion even more.
Yeah. And then when did the conversation start? I know you said you were working on it maybe, or a pipe dream, for 5 years before actually starting a brewery. Do you remember who was?
So we really more seriously started thinking about 2014. 2015, like really more serious. About a year before I quit my job, I kind of knew I was quitting in a year. That's when we started really doing research. I was always taking time off work and going out to Victoria and all these places, and my coworkers were like, "Why are you doing that?" And then May 2016 is when we got ownership of the building. It took about 4 or 5 months to finally locate a building and be happy with it. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of research. We went out to our whole brew house system, our 20-barrel systems from Pacific Mechanical out in Victoria. So before we got anything, we went out there and met all those guys and talked to them about building our equipment and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going before we actually pulled the trigger. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think you approached it the right way, is that you really did your research and you took your time. You weren't rushing into it just to be like, we need to be first, or we need to be this or that or whatever, right?
Yeah, like the whole, it worked out well with the Alberta changing the rules, the Alberta AGLC and stuff as well. I think that was also like kind of a catalyst to help start us, but it wasn't necessarily the only thing, which I think a lot of people blame the craft beer boom on that, but I think it's also people were more into beer and it's just getting bigger that way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hear you. And then my last big question for you is, what do you want to see happen in Alberta beer moving forward?
What do I want to see happen in Alberta beer moving forward? I'm liking a lot of stuff I see. I think a lot of guys are pushing the boundaries, trying new styles out. A lot of people are collaborating with each other, starting to move more towards the local scene. I know we're definitely going to making an effort to include all our local malts, like the Red Shed or Origin. A lot more hop producers out there. We just did a fresh hop beer with Flatline hops out of Tabor.
Oh, cool.
We were their first hop sale, actually, which was great. So we went and bought, I think, 50 pounds of Cascade hops on Wednesday and brewed the beer Thursday.
Yeah.
But just seeing stuff like that. Thank you. And then just keep kind of going, I guess. Hopefully soon we can all be together for some beers and kind of talk more about the beer scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I know everyone's kind of missing I think so. I think everyone's missing it. And I didn't realize, you take things for granted. You mentioned earlier on at the beginning, like beer shows, is that really, like, beer shows are great for customers because you get to try a whole bunch of stuff in one spot. You don't have to travel, really. You just walk around the room. But I think for the industry, it was like, a reunion. Every couple months you could get together and like, hey, what's up? Like, see what's going on. And
oh yeah, I don't think you could ever say from a beer fest your sales increased, really. I don't know how you could get that data in that, but like going to beer fest and stuff is just great seeing everybody. It's great from us being in the South because it gives us an excuse to go up to Calgary and talk to a lot of breweries you probably necessarily wouldn't see. We're hoping to, once COVID's over, probably next summer, take like trips up, all the brewery guys, to a bunch doing tours through Edmonton and Calgary and stuff, kind of showing them as well what's all out there, because we don't get to travel too much right now. So
yeah, and that's, I know I'll be scheming on a trip south again. We did 2019 we did a bus tour from Edmonton. We just went down to Red Deer and back in an afternoon, or over the day, but we visited every other brewery on the way down and then the opposite on the way back up.
Awesome. That'd be a sweet trip.
We had an absolute blast. I was like, to do something a little longer about that, to get to Southern Alberta, or to team up with people in Calgary and just do a Southern Alberta loop over a day or two.
Yeah, for sure. Well, our doors are always open and our pints are always full.
I appreciate that. No, it's great. Anything else you want to let the beer listeners, the beer consumers of the province here?
Yeah, just look out for us. We're really focused this year. I think we're trying to up everything we can do and trying to really make a run at it this year. So yeah, stay look out for Medicine Hat Brewing Company.
Hells yes, I hear you. Cool, man. Well, for our listeners, thanks for tuning in. When this is posted, after you hear it, feel free to comment and engage with us on Twitter and Instagram at AbBeerGuide. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.